thank you for joining us. We are here at 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve in Fort Myers, Florida, to share a few tips with you to make your visit to the slough a little more educational and fun. My name is Jackie Parker, and I'm here with my classmates, Dr. Jose Padilla and Steve Parker. And this podcast is our project for the Freshwater Systems core course of the Florida Master Naturalist Program. And Dr. Jose and Steve are volunteers here at 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve. The 6 Mile Cypress Slough is over 3,500 acres of wetland in Fort Myers, Florida, that measures about 11 miles long and a third of a mile wide. This linear ecosystem is home to a diverse population of plants and animals, including a few considered to be endangered. The slough also serves as a corridor for wildlife by providing safe route of travel. The slough is a natural drainage way, collecting runoff water from a 33 square mile watershed area during periods of heavy or prolonged rainfall. During the wet season, which is June through November, a depth of 2 to 3 feet of water makes the slough comparable to a wide, shallow stream. This fresh water flows southwest through the slough and empties into the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve. The slough became a preserve in 1976 because of its positive influences on the community and environment. The preserve provides education and low-impact recreation to its visitors, deters flooding, and recharges shallow wells, protects the health of the Gulf of Mexico, and is a wildlife habitat for numerous plants and animal species. And I got that information from the 6 Mile Cypress Friends website, and that is at sloughpreserve.org. Visit the Lee County 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve website to learn more about it. And right now, Dr. Jose and Steve are going to introduce you to 3 spots along the boardwalk and provide information on bird and plant life that you might see on your visit to 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve. Right now, we are at Gator Lake, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing here with Dr. Jose and Steve. So what are we seeing? Earlier, across the way over there is a great blue heron, you were saying.
Yes. Well, the first thing I would like to tell everybody that visits this wonderful place is, if you want to see birds, you should bring your binoculars, because it's, you can come here without binoculars and see birds everywhere. But if you really want to enjoy them and look closely at these wonderful creatures, binoculars are the way to go. Right now, right in front of us, we can see a great blue heron displaying, looking up, and you can see those beautiful feathers. And he's looking up at the sky, does a great display. And he looks wonderful against the green and the gold and the red of those the leaves of the cypress that he's perched on. And if you pan your binoculars, you can also see other birds perched. Like there's a great egret also perched to the right. Also 3 male anhingas, which is another bird typical of Florida. A lot of people haven't seen anhingas, but they're very common on the freshwater ponds of Florida. You can see lots of anhingas here in this wonderful place.
And Dr. Jose and Steve, we're here in the morning. We're here early in the morning, which is a great time for birding and to come out and see wildlife. And listeners, you're going to hear ambulances in the background because we're in Fort Myers, and so we're in a little bit of an urban area. So this is just it's a very peaceful setting, but also there's a lot of traffic and activity going through as well.
And I might point out that although we're in this beautiful nature setting and it's just filled with natural water, Gator Lake was actually man-made. It was an excavation site to build that highway where we just heard the traffic go by.
And there's a very nice boardwalk that leads you here to Gator Lake, and a nice amphitheater for slough activities.
Yes, and the fact that you can hear the traffic also makes the point that it's very accessible. So, if you're in Fort Myers or you're passing through, 75 and 41 are just a step away. So you can come and visit us at any time. So I was saying about the birds that are near here. If you keep panning to the right, you can see an osprey sitting up high in a tree way up there, looking down. Osprey is a great bird of the coastal North America. You can see him in all the continents except Antarctica, and he's a very regal bird. They also call him the sea hawk. It's one of my favorite birds. And he will swoop down and grab a fish every once in a while. You may also see eagles here in the lake, and eagles will sometimes go down and fight with the osprey, trying to scare him and make him lose his prey, and will swoop down and grab his prey. And eagles may be kind of a bit of a bully and grab it from him. Of course, being the bigger bird and more a better flyer, will end up catching that prey. So there's a lot of beautiful birds here. There's also smaller birds that you can hear sometimes and look for them. Warblers and woodpeckers. I just saw a woodpecker flying across a northern flicker's nest here. At this time of year, we have wintering yellow-bellied sapsuckers and the big woody woodpecker type pileated woodpeckers. Such a beautiful diversity of birds that you can find here year-round, but during the winter they really increase in numbers. And right now it's not really winter, it's fall, so we have an increase in numbers of species that visit us.
And before we move on, I want to point out this plant over here that's very interesting. It's a spatterdock, and we can find it throughout the slough, but it grows in about 18 to 24 inches of water. And just a few weeks ago, it would have had a stalk that shot out of the water with a bright yellow flower on top. And it's a really pretty flower, and you might say, boy, I can only imagine what that flower is going to look like when it fully opens. And here's the interesting thing about spatterdock: the flower never fully opens.
Oh, very good. Well, let's move on to our next spot, which is
Potash Pond.
All right, off we go. So we're back here at the stand. What is this called? A seating area?
Yeah. This is a blind.
Blind, thank you. A blind at Potash Pond. And what are we looking at?
So this is a pond, and birders like blinds. Photographers love blinds. It makes them invisible to bird life, wildlife, things that may be out there, and you may be invisible to them, so they act naturally, hopefully. And right now, we don't see much of anything, but sometimes you see wood ducks. I have seen 2 male wood ducks fighting for a female. Romeo and Juliet. There may be limpkin hiding behind those sticks back there. I have seen short-tailed hawks up there. Short-tailed hawks are one of those birds that birders all over the U.S. come down to Florida to see, because they're only here in Florida. Florida is the northernmost part of the range in North America. where they nest. They nest down here in Florida, and I've seen them perched up in the top of those cypress trees. And limpkins are another birds that are typically Florida birds. Right now, I don't know if it's due to the climate change, but they have been seen in other states. But it's typically Florida birds, just like purple gallinules. And we have seen purple gallinules here in the slough, but it's not a very common bird to see in the slough because they seem to like a more shallow area.
Can we talk a little bit about the water flow here at Popash Pond and how that is beneficial to the wildlife?
Yes, the water flow here is very slow. It's this is a slough, so it's not a there is water flowing. It's not just standing water. So that's the reason why we don't have a big problem with mosquito. So in the few places where there's a little bit of standing water, you may have larvae, and fish eat those mosquito larvae. There's mosquito fish for that, and the birds will eat those larvae, and they eat the fish, and that's beneficial for the rest of the food chain. So water flows. Eventually, it goes out to the bay. So it's not standing water, and that's why it's called a slough.
And I'll just point out a couple of the plants that are out here in this area. Popash is here, hence the name Popash Pond. And it's obviously very well adapted to water. And its leaves are the host to the giant swallowtail butterfly, also the sphinx moth. And the wood is so sturdy that Fender used to use it in guitars. Popash and pond apple are host plants for ghost orchids. And the historical record says there used to be ghost orchids in 6 Mile Cypress Slough. We don't know of any right now. But as you get farther south, there are some forests where there are ghost orchids, and again, popash and pond apple are plants that you might find them on.
Eventually, there could be. There's close by in Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. I've seen the beautiful 13 flower ghost orchid. So who knows? Maybe we'll have one here.
Right. And the interesting thing about that ghost orchid is it's on a bald cypress tree, which is not where they're typically found.
Oh yeah. And and that's one of the major trees here, right? We're surrounded by bald cypresses, which is the typical tree of the wetlands here.
And if I can mention the pond apple again, its apples are eaten by birds, raccoons, squirrels, alligators, and turtles. And people always ask, can we eat it? And the answer is yes, you can, but it doesn't taste very good.
Yeah, I've never tried one, and I don't think I will.
What does it taste like?
It's said to be bitter.
Bitter, okay.
Yeah, and people who do eat it usually make it into a pie and put tons of sugar in it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, and
Shall
we're
we move
off
on?
to our next spot.
Oh, before you go, I
Okay.
just saw, I talked to you about a woodpecker. There's one right now. If you look at that tall cypress, the tallest cypress right in front of me,
Yeah.
if you look to the left, there is a little, you can see a little form there. It's my friend, the yellow-bellied sapsucker, pecking there. It's neat because it makes rows of, it's pecking. You see it pecking right now?
A good spot, Jose.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I saw it fly in. So it makes rows of holes, and you see lines, parallel lines up and down the trunk of the tree. So if you see a tree with parallel lines from top to bottom of the tree with holes, that's a sapsucker tree. And they tend to love a particular tree, and they get it every year. And that's a wintering bird here.
Very Interesting. Thank you. All right, off we go.
Okay,
We're-
now we're hoping to find some water that actually has some movement.
We're out here on the boardwalk. Where are we exactly on the boardwalk, Dr. Jose?
We are right past point 1600 foot. We are searching for a barred owl that was seen here yesterday, sleeping peacefully, and people were seeing him because he was close to the boardwalk. And a barred owl is a big bird, and it's one of those things that people see and they remember. It's not like a warbler that people that don't have binoculars barely can figure out what they're seeing. A barred owl is a memorable sight and something that they can take with them as a good memory of the slough. And it's a resident here in the slough year-round, and they nest here and they have their babies here. But I can't find him right now.
I might point out the water where we're at. Unlike the pronounced deep water at Gator Lake and the pond setting of Popash Pond, here we're looking at just a few inches of water slowly moving, which is what much of the slough is, this freshwater moving. And it's just home to so much wildlife, and we just saw a raccoon. And then we've got the swamp ferns, the bald cypress trees, cabbage palm, sable palm. We've got a lot of diversity out here.
Okay, so much for the barred owl. Anyway, barred owls are brownish, tan, they are stripy, so they're very well camouflaged. They're about I would say 10 inches.
And
Football shaped.
Oh,
Dr. Jose, when we take people on our wet walks here at 6 Mile Cypress Slough, and we're actually moving through the water, quite often we see a screech owl. So there are other kinds of owls here.
Those are the two owls really that we have here in the slough. You may have maybe great horned owls passing through, but they like a more dry habitat. In Cape Coral, you may see the little burrowing owl, but that's not an owl that you'll see here. They like drier habitats. Okay, we are at the otter pond now. This is one of the 3 ponds that we have at the beautiful 6 Mile Cypress Slough. And Steve is going to talk to us right now. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how the slough was founded, preserved. Back in the 40s, the area was logged. The cypress trees were all logged, and they were about to do the same thing in the 70s. And Dr. Bill Hammond, who was a science teacher, had a group called the Monday Group, and they would go out to nature sites, and they took on the cause of preserving the slough and keeping it from being logged. And in the mid-70s, they actually got a campaign to put a ballot initiative where voters in Lee County would tax themselves to buy the land and preserve the slough, and that passed in 1976. And that's why we have all these beautiful bald cypress trees now. But they only date back to about then, because again, they were logging in the 40s.
thanks, Steve. I see a bird.
Oh yes, that's the beautiful anhinga. The anhinga is, I would say, one of the most iconic birds of Florida. Every time I see an anhinga, I just
What's down there? There's a little.
I just see Florida in my mind. Okay, you saw a bird just flying in there. and he stands upright, and he has a flicking tail, right? And he's kind of yellowish underneath
Oh.
in his belly. So some people would immediately think, oh, it's a palm warbler. But no, no. It is a phoebe, an eastern phoebe. So that's another bird that flicks its tail, but it's bigger than a palm warbler, and it stands upright, and it hawks. We say it hawks for little flying insects. It's a flycatcher. It's a flycatcher that comes during the winter. It's a migratory bird. There's a much bigger bird, also low. He likes to stay low down near the water because it also likes to hunt for fish. That doesn't like insect. It goes for fish down in the water, and it's a green heron. It used to be called a little green heron, but ornithologists like to change names of birds all the time. Right now, there's a big controversy because there's a lot of names and birds being changed right now. So that's a green heron, and that's a bird that's here year-round, and it's a beautiful bird. It's one of the smallest herons that we have here, and it's a green. You also used to be called the little green heron, the greenback heron, and now it's just called the green heron because there's not a big green heron or a greater a green heron. So those are three Florida birds that people love to see here.
And we talked earlier about how this gem is right in Fort Myers, this preserve, and that's one of the reasons it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in Lee County. And about 285,000 people came here in the past year.
And it's all because this water is here, this fresh water that flows through.
Yep. And serving a purpose of keeping the water clean and replenishing our aquifer.
You see the spatter duck here in this pond. It's you will see a lot of times waterfowl in here, like ducks. We may see every once in a while wood ducks, and they love the flower from the spatter ducks, and also turtles. There's a lot of turtles in here that they also love the flower, the yellow flower from the spatter duck. So you may see a turtle, the Florida red-bellied turtle. I've seen them a lot of times eating that flower.
And a few of these spatter ducks still have their yellow flowers. Again, they're not fully open because they don't, but they shoot that stalk up in the air, and then it plunges down into the ground and buries the seed in the water. So those seeds are spread that way, and also by the ducks and the turtles that swim around the plant.
And the water is clear, but it also has sort of a rusty color
Yes.
to it.
Tannins from the trees. You may also once in a while see a fish that may be swimming by, the gar, the little mosquito fish, and those are the fish that the anhinga will eat. You see that the anhinga has a very long lance-like bill. They will throw themselves in the water and go deep and spear that fish, and then they will come out and throw the fish in the air and swallow it whole. And then they have to spend some time with their wings stretched, trying to dry them out because they are soaked and they can't fly with the soaked feathers. The other bird that does that, but they have not a pointy bill, but a little hook in the bill, is the double-crested cormorant that we also have here in the slough. It also is a bird that you will see out in the coastal parts of Florida, but you will not see usually an anhinga in the coast. They're mostly a freshwater bird. You will also see alligators here in the slough. Right now, we don't see any in this pond, but people love it when they see alligators. For some reason, tourists love to come to Florida to see our big alligators.
And Dr. Jose, I might point out, people wonder, do alligators, are they territorial? There's one here at 6 Mile Cypress Slough called Stumpy, and she often produces young alligators, but she lost one of her limbs in an accident or an attack or something, and but she's a regular visitor. So yeah, alligators tend to, if they like a place, they'll stay in the place. If they don't, they'll move on.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot of fun facts and a lot of information for their next visit to the slough. And I just want to thank Dr. Jose Padilla, my classmate in this, and Steve Parker, who are both volunteers at 6 Mile Cypress Slough. If you want more information on 6 Mile Cypress Slough in podcast form, please listen to Shellcast, the podcast that is a beach break for your ears. There's an episode called For the Birds, and we interview Dr. Jose, and he gives 5 tips to becoming a better birder in Southwest Florida. And we certainly hope you enjoyed this podcast. And for more information about the 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve, please visit the Lee County website at leegov.com/parks and the Slough Friends website at sloughpreserve.org. The Florida Master Naturalist Program is part of the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agriculture Sciences Extension. And again, my name is Jackie Parker, and for Dr. Jose Padilla and Steve Parker, thank you for listening.